Ever since playing it, I've wondered why this Cyberpunk game felt like one of the coziest gaming experiences I've ever had. Which is weird because Cyberpunk is a genre that's supposed to feel cold, lonely, and miserable, not cozy and comforting. Was it the gameplay? Maybe, but I think there's something that's doing way more of the emotional heavy lifting, and I didn't realize how powerful it was until I was stuck on a 12-hour flight home from Japan. I hate flying, so I just sat there in my seat while looping the Valhalla soundtrack for emotional support more times than what most people would consider a sane amount. So is this game soundtrack so good, or was I just being a tiny bit obsessive? During my last week in Tokyo, I got lost looking for this record shop that probably doesn't even exist and ended up in Tower Records. A literal tower of records, and tucked between all the anime soundtracks and shiny J-pop singles, there was the complete sound collection of Valhalla. That's a weird way to hold a CD. The soundtrack sounds like what someone in the 80s thought the future would feel and sound like, but with a hangover. Yes, because it's a bartending game. Garoad. Michael Kelly's soundtrack is this dreamy blend of lo-fi, synth-pop, and vaporwave influences. When creating the music for Valhalla, he was not given the full story. Instead, he built a concept album designed to feel like Glitch City rather than to narrate it. So, the result is a soundtrack that sounds more like the future from the past. Personally, the music in this game makes my brain think of certain bands, decades, and ideas about what the future was supposed to sound like. Which means we have to time travel for a second. Before synths were instruments, they were basically lab equipment. People were making music with tape loops, oscillators, and whatever haunted machinery they could get their hands on. For example, the BBC Radiophonic Workshop existed to create sounds that did not exist back then. The Doctor Who theme, the original Doctor Who, pure mad scientist, energy, and scissors. And that's because sci-fi shows needed alien noises, future noises, and since no one knew how the future was supposed to sound like, these people just invented them from scratch. Then the 60s and 70s hit and synths became actual instruments, Moogs, Buchlas, giant machines that looked like you could accidentally summon a demon with the wrong patch cable. But the most important part is it wasn't just about making cool noises. Okay, maybe a little, but it was about imagining the future. After the mad scientists came the robots. These robots. We are the robots. Kraftwerk, basically. I hope that's how you say it.
Kraftwerk.
These guys weren't just using technology, they were also making music about it. Like trains connecting the entire continent of Europe that, of course, didn't exist. And early home computers. For example, this record, it's about that. And the titles of the songs are Computer World, Pocket Calculator, Numbers, Computer World 2, Computer Love, Home computers. It's more fun to compute. I guess it's safe to say that they liked computers or fantasizing about them. And then Japan heard that and went, cool, but let's make it Japanese. Enter Yellow Magic Orchestra, the other electronic music grandfathers. They were influenced by Kraftwerk, but in interviews they said their music sounded kind of cold, very German engineer vibes. Which, fair. So YMO flipped it. They took the same electronic tools and made them playful, upbeat, rooted in everyday Japanese culture and the very popular topic of video games. Haruomi Hosono has mentioned being straight up addicted to arcade games, which at the time felt like the same kind of technological miracle as synths did. For example, on the song Computer Game, you can hear an arrangement with sounds from Gunfight, Space Invaders, and Circus. As games evolved and gained more memory, Yellow Magic Orchestra's tight grooves, the funky loop-friendly sounds and rhythms fit the medium almost suspiciously well, basically setting a blueprint for early electronic game music. A really blunt example, Sega's early arcade title, Super Locomotive, straight up recreates Raideen. So you had Kraftwerk narrating their ideas of the machine age wrapped in German efficiency core, and Yellow Magic Orchestra imagining a future filled with neon, arcades, and weird optimism. In the late 80s, Japan was also at the height of its bubble economy. City pop, or how it was known back then, pop, which the Valhalla soundtrack definitely echoes, rose into the mainstream during that era. City pop was basically Japan going, we're modern, we're rich, we have cars with cassette decks. Don't die on me. But city pop pulled a lot from American funk, disco, R&B, but filtered through this totally Japanese lens, which was dreamier, more hopeful, and weirdly futuristic. Artists basically created a soundtrack for driving through a neon-lit Tokyo at night while sipping canned coffee from a vending machine, contemplating life. A soundtrack that somehow everyone remembers, even though some of us weren't even alive back then. But Valhalla is a cyberpunk bartending action game. Well, not sure about the action part, but how the hell do these things connect? Well, Cyberpunk looks at all these shiny imagined futures and basically says, yeah, none of that happened. You get corporate dystopia and anxiety instead. Enjoy. And that's the whole cyberpunk mood. The tech arrived, but the optimism didn't. The future exists, but people are miserable in it. Machines are not here to liberate us. They're here to track each and every one of us. And the world is hyper advanced, but no one is happy and very few can afford therapy. You get the picture. Cyberpunk is the broken version of these imagined futures everyone used to dream about. And when people think of cyberpunk soundtracks, they usually think of oppressive ambience, dark drones, stuff like Kenji Kawai's Ghost in the Shell soundtrack. He was inspired by the raw, dissonant, ritual-style singing of the Bulgarian folk choirs. But he ended up working with Japanese folk singers instead, building the choir out of minyo vocalists. The result is this ancient, eerie sound that completely sidesteps Western harmony. It makes the future feel overwhelming, inhuman, and kind of terrifying. Sci-fi writers had been poking at these ideas way before cyberpunk was officially a thing. While everyone else in sci-fi was dreaming of utopias and shiny space futures, Philip K. Dick, J.G. Ballard, these guys basically looked at the future and went, this is not gonna go well. Then Blade Runner happened in 1982. Meanwhile, in Japan, 1982 also gave us Akira, the manga first, then the 1988 film adaptation. The economic and technological state of Japan is a regular theme in the cyberpunk literature of the 1980s. William Gibson even said, "Modern Japan simply was cyberpunk." But it wasn't just Japan. Hong Kong's chaotic, layered, densely packed cityscapes also became the blueprint for cyberpunk vibes. And the Valhalla soundtrack sits right at that intersection. The sound comes from the optimistic past, old synths, city pop, softness, but the setting comes from a cyberpunk future shaped by present-day anxieties. And the contrast is the whole Valhalla aesthetic. The future we wanted layered on top of the future we actually got. But let's talk a bit about the game's name. VA11 Hall A. Why pick a search-friendly name when you can take the Elon Musk baby naming approach? But once you get past the captcha code title, which, fair, it does match the cyberpunk vibe, Valhalla is a visual novel set in a future shaped by megacorps and technology. You play as Jill, a bartender who seems to decode her entire customer base better than she understands herself. She is not a hero, she's just trying to exist in Glitch City, a dystopian city where cup ramen goes for the low price of $59.99. Holy sh! And visually it's all pixel art, Japanese influences everywhere, from the Kirin style vending machines to Jill's cozy kotatsu in her apartment. You can even see it in Streaming Chan's text-heavy livestream, the 8888 applause spam. That's very Nico coded. One of the devs even said that the game exists in this parallel universe where Japan did take over the world through technology. Also, let's not forget the unhinged character designs. Like, you have an ADHD Shiba who somehow managed to gain sapience, but absolutely did not gain impulse control, or a cheerful floating brain in a jar. Yeah, Tyler, I'm looking at you. I know it's the future, but come on. Also, if you're interested in a similar video, I talk about the soundtrack in this other game, and you can click on that here somewhere. Thank you so much for watching. That makes me happy. Now go listen to the soundtrack.